Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Holistic Transformation Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Beverly, and we're sponsored by the Dancing Bear Enlightenment Academy. And I will have information in the show notes below about how to contact us. And my guest speaker, Christine Breese, many of you know her. She's been on our show before. And we have a summit coming up the end of March, March 28th, and we have a recording because she's very busy with her Gaia Sagrada. Did I say it right? Gaia Sagrada
Yes, retreat
Retreat
center.
Center. And she's in Ecuador. So we pre record them. And we thought we'd do this podcast. And she's also the owner of the University of Metaphysical Science. What's the web address? Metaphysical
It's
University?
metaphysicuniversity.com.
Metaphysicuniversity.com. Okay, and that'll be in the show notes. So we went round and round. What should we talk about today? And we both have something in common that we went on a journey of transformation on, and that is cancer. So I'm much older, so I went through it 20 years ago. She just went through it last year.
Yeah,
And and well, actually it was a year, more and a half, more than a year,
yeah, it was the past 2 years.
2 years.
It was 2 years
And
ago, the
2 years ago.
diagnosis.
And then this year you were diagnosed as clean, right?
Clear. Yeah.
Cured, whatever they say it. So we thought what we do is talk about two different approaches, but the underlying cause of cancer and what you need to do to heal it is the same.
Mhm.
So since I'm older, we'll start with me. And so, as I said, mine was in the breast, it was my left breast. And I knew what it was. I had a pink area that was growing, and there was pain that was growing, but I didn't want to go to the doctor. I said, no, I'm not going to deal with this. It has to go away. I'd been addicted to Diet Coke, and I couldn't get off of it. I drank so much soda that I actually had a soda maker because I couldn't deal with all the cans. And I started meditating, and one day noticed I hadn't had a Diet Coke in 2 weeks. I thought, well, that's weird. So that was spontaneously healed. And so I went and made one for myself, took one drink and spit it out and got rid of the soda maker because it's like it was horrible. I couldn't even drink it at all. So, and I believe that the diet soda is probably what, because diet has a big impact on whether or not you get cancer. And my diet, I was also going to Mount Shasta once a month and Hidden Valley once a week doing spiritual retreats. And I was eating a particular company's, I don't want to name companies, chicken nuggets. Now, there's another company, kind of like this. Their chicken nuggets were terrible. So I was eating chicken nuggets from another company where you could see it was real chicken. So I thought it was healthy. Actually, after this, I stopped eating that and really changed my diet. I didn't actually, that was the only fast food I drank, I ate. So my diet wasn't great. I had a lot of childhood anger, and in my opinion, and this is based on clinical practice that started in the 90s as a hypnotherapist and later as an acupuncturist and now as a holistic health medical intuitive, there is an element of unresolved anger, usually in the form of some kind of rage that you have not resolved. And I spent many, many years working on that, working on myself, so that by the time the cancer had manifested, I had already done a lot of work, changing my diet, changing what I drank as a liquid, changing my underlying anger and other issues. I had a lot of other issues as well. So by the time I got it, I had been working on those things already. And it kept getting worse and worse and worse. And the little pink area got bigger and bigger. And the pain got more and more intense to the point where I didn't know how to deal with it anymore. So I went to my family doctor and he said, oh, I have to send you to a specialist. And I knew, oh gosh. So I made the appointment. I went home, and I am a graduate of a 3-year shamanic training program, as well as a number of other shamanic work. So I did a shamanic journey, crying. It was the middle of the afternoon, so it was daylight. I'm crying and crying and crying. And I called on my power animals for help and my spirit helpers. And I said, I will not use chemotherapy. I will not allow surgery to butcher my body. I'm not going to do any of that. If you want me to fulfill my purpose, and I knew my purpose, I knew why I incarnated, and it wasn't time yet to manifest it. And I said, if you want me to fulfill that purpose, you've got to do something, because I'm just going to die otherwise, because I'm not going to go through ruining my health further with chemo, which does not heal cancer, by the way. We've known how to cure cancer for over 100 years. Chemo comes from the chemicals that they used in the showers, that the Germans used in the showers to kill people. That's the chemical that they're using for cancer. So I'm crying, and in comes, on my right side was Raphael, and these 3 pink balls of energy. So I see higher level beings as pink balls of energy, and I see slightly lower level, like archangels and things. I see them more as wearing long robes. So you don't see legs and feet, and they're really big, and they have kind of fuzzy arms. You don't really see the hands. But you can kind of see the head, and they're mostly kind of like a shadow, like a ghost. When you see a ghost, you see a shadow. It's kind of like that. So he was here. I knew who he was because I worked with him a lot. And then these 3 angels, which are very high level beings on the side with the cancer. And I just felt them working on me, and I passed out. When I came to, it was dark out. So I don't know how long I was on the floor, because back then I did my journeys on the floor. And the first thing I noticed was all the pain was gone. I thought, wow. And then I looked at my breast, and the pink was orange. So when I went in to see the doctor, he said, I don't understand it. You have this kind of cancer and it's going away. He said that mark should be gone within the next 2 weeks. He gave me a cream, and he says, come back if it's not gone. It took 2 months, not 2 weeks, but it went away, and it's never come back. But like I said, I had done the work already. So now what we're going to do is Christine is going to tell you her journey and the work she had to do for her own transformation. So Christine, I give you the floor.
Well, thank you, Beverly, for telling us that story. I mean, what a beautiful story and what a miracle you created. And it goes to show that intention really can clear something as serious as cancer. That's amazing. I, I don't know if my story is as amazing as yours. It's not as miraculous, but because I did have to go with Western medicine. Um, what happened was I didn't have any idea I had cancer. I had no idea. I just thought I was a little tired. And I'd been used to working on fumes for decades. So I just thought that was normal. And but all my organs swelled up one day, and I had to go to the hospital. It just wasn't going away. And I went to the hospital, and they were like, "Oh goodness, good thing you came in, because you would have died. Your spleen was going to burst." And it turned out that the cancer cells had gotten into the organs, and they did a test, and they were like, "You have cancer, and you have 6 to 12 months to live. Good luck." You know, kind of like that. I was like, what? What? I mean, look at me. I don't look sick. I mean, I had no idea. And I just never even thought that I was one of those people who would get cancer, because, I'm doing my spiritual homework for all my life, and I'm, healing, and, like, how could there still be like unresolved stuff? But like I was saying before in the summit, um, healing travels around in spirals, and you hit this issue at this level, then when you spiral around, you hit it at this level, then you spiral around, you hit it at another level, another one. And there was basically a final level that I really had not reached with it yet or even realized I needed to. And as soon as I got that diagnosis, the first thing I did was start doubling down on, okay, what's the spiritual homework I got to do here? What is still unresolved? What's still left undone that I thought was done? And it turns out that, yeah, there were some childhood issues, that some childhood stuff, pretty, you know, bad experiences that were really terrifying that, I had healed to the point where I thought they were healed. Um, I guess maybe we could call it having put a band-aid on it enough to to be able to function and even flourish in my spiritual mission and all of that. But once I really started looking at it, there was a much deeper level that I had not uh, addressed, and it really actually even came down to how it had shaken my faith in reality itself being benevolent. That you know is even God or Source as benevolent as I thought it was. Was this childhood program that got in there that I didn't even notice before. I never even noticed that was there. And so I had to go through a lot of work with making peace with what happened, making peace with the reality, making peace with the source that even allows realities like this to happen, um, and making peace with, you know, that my soul somehow agreed to experience those things and heal this part of the human dysfunction, because we all get to pick a human dysfunction. Oh, you want to be an earthling? Oh, sure. Okay. Which dysfunction are you going to pick? Because, it's not a free ride to be a human. This is a construction zone. It's not a vacation planet. Those ones are over there. So, so basically, I just had to really double down and just go through the bottom drawer, bottom of the barrel, and just really clean house. So it was basically a serious year of cleaning house. Now, I did do chemo, and I do think that that was necessary for me. I was debating whether to do the alternative therapies and stuff or, other ways of healing. Because I had always thought that that's what I would do if I had ever gotten cancer. Okay, well, there's this, there's that, there's, thousands of different ways to heal that aren't chemo. But my friend, it was stage 4. And uh, my friend sat down with me one day, and she'd been through 2 cancer journeys with her friends, one who died and another one who almost died, trying all the alternative therapies to the point where she was in a wheelchair on an oxygen tank, crippled. And her doctor even said, look, it may be too late for you with the chemo, but we're going to try. But the chemo did help her finally. And my friend said to me, she said, look, you're in stage 4. You don't have time to experiment or fool around, at least to knock it out and then do all the alternative things to maintain. So I listened to her and I did end up doing it. And within 6 months, it was knocked out. I did 6 months of treatments and they were actually very gentle. I didn't lose my hair. I didn't get sick. There was no nausea. I did my research and picked a very gentle chemo that is effective for this particular type of cancer. It was a lymphoma, and it was known to be effective for that. And it was very gentle. It didn't make you sick, and it didn't make you hear. I mean, I actually wouldn't have even known I was in a chemo process because it was so gentle. And I was also doing, alongside that, the doctor had prescribed a immune therapy, rituximab, which triggers your immune system to really clean house. And so between the chemo and that, it knocked the cancer out. And and I got the test to prove that it was gone. There was no cancer found in my bones. which was where the lymphoma manifests from, and in the marrow. And uh, I'm feeling pretty good. And I'm still, that test was just 2 months ago. So, and I was determined to be cancer free. And I don't think, though, that the chemo would have worked, any of it. I don't think any of it would have worked without the spiritual homework. I think that that is the crucial ingredient. You could do all the physical stuff right, the diet, the changes, um the chemicals, the chemo, whatever, but if you don't do the spiritual inner work, none of that's going to work. And the first thing to do is just double down on, okay, what do I need to do to clean house spiritually, emotionally, mentally? What have I not fully resolved? And, I do think that a lot of cancer has to do with unresolved angers, resentments. But I think that also for me, there was just a really deep sadness that was still there that I didn't even know was still there. A really deep sadness about the state of the world, the state of things that could happen to a child, the state of things that, you how people treat each other. I mean, there was a deep disillusionment about whether it's really truly a benevolent universe. And that I think that when I was a young person that I adopted, but I didn't realize that and never gave it language, never realized it. And when I went back and really dove in, I was like, oh my gosh, this is there. And it's not a cosmology that I have worn all this time. Like, I've always been wearing the whole, it's a benevolent universe, and this is just a tough school. And, to strengthen souls for bigger responsibilities later in the universe. Um, it feels like I always had this cosmology of, connecting with source, and that, this whole journey is about that, to reestablish, like, source put us in a place to forget who we are, to see if we can find our way back to it. And that's to generate our own source energy, to generate our own light, to generate our own love. And that's a huge part of what the human journey is about, is learning how to generate what you need yourself, rather than needing, like a child from a parent, reassurance all the time, love all the time, this stability. In a way, it's sort of like graduating from source as the energy funnel that we draw from, to graduating to when a child grows up and it's friends with its parent instead, and more on an equal co-creating level, and rather than, a child that needs energy. And that's proper order of things. Of course, as a young soul, we're needing source to give us energy, give us love, let us know we're worthy, and loved. But there comes a point in a soul's journey where it has to grow up from that, and before it can truly be a universe creator, a creator in the universe with trusted with power, trusted with integrity, trusted with its ability to love even in the dark, and to generate its own light even in the dark, even with no support, even with no reassurances. That's graduation into responsibility as a creator. And so I do think that this is a place that has been preparing us for that. And when we leave here, we're not the young soul anymore. We're not the beginner anymore. And still, I do think the beginners don't come here. This is not a beginner school. We must have grown up quite a lot already to even be allowed to go to Earth College. So, get our PhD in being human.
I
But
was going to say this is graduate school.
definitely. So, but once we leave here, it's a whole different ball game than before we entered this program, shall we say. But anyway, so that was my journey with the healing was uh, really just going in and doing the spiritual work. I didn't even think of saying, well, if you want me to stay and keep doing the work, then you need to fix this. I wish I had thought of that and seen if it worked.
Keep
I
in
just thought,
mind,
oh,
though,
I was like,
I
oh shit, bangers. I got a lot of spiritual work to do now. So,
I had had 5 near-death experiences. The first one
mhm,
was when my daughter was born, but this was many years later. One was part of my shamanic teaching, but there were three very close together before this happened. And this
mhm,
really forced me to do that internal work.
mhm,
So you can do the internal work ahead of time.
mhm. Which I
I'd
thought I had
already,
done.
yeah.
I
Well,
think we did it. Obviously, you did, but I don't think I did.
no, I still had more work to do. I'm still doing work. I think that's an ongoing
Yeah, me too.
process. We're never done. I've worked with
Right.
two living Buddhas, and one of them I know pretty well, and I would still see him catch himself.
Mhm.
Um, I don't care how high level, quote, if there's such a thing as high level being you become, living in a body is hard and you
Yeah.
just have stuff to learn. And obviously, eating healthy, having healthy food, healthy habits is very, very important. I mean, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't drink coffee, I don't even do marijuana, I don't do any kind of drugs, I don't take any Western meds. And I've been able to be very, very healthy at a much older age. Um, but obviously, as Christine is saying, that's not the only thing you have to do. You really have to do the inner work. You have to transform, which of course is what this channel and my work is all about, is helping people transform. And you have to start with the health because you can do all the inner work in the world. And if you have a bad diet, you're going to get sick. Okay. That's just it.
Mhm.
So the younger you are, the sooner you start on a decent diet. I had one patient tell me, well, I'm going to eat. He had terrible digestive stuff going on. He was in his 20s. And I says, well, this is what's causing it. You need to change your diet. He was Spanish and he had certain foods he wanted to eat. And he didn't want to give it up because it was part of his culture. And I says,
Right.
well, he said, I can't afford better food. He was just strictly eating fast food, and you can imagine where he was eating. And I
Fast
said,
food is not that cheap anymore, actually.
no, but it's even worse today than it was back 20 years ago when I
Right.
was talking to this guy. I says, you
Right.
have a choice. You can spend more for food now and be healthy when you're older, or you can spend less for food now and spend a lot on medical bills when you get older. And I know you
Well,
probably spent
good
a
logic.
fortune on medical bills. I said, it's your choice. I have Medicare, but I don't use it because I don't use Western medicine. And I don't go to the doctor. Okay. I did break my ankle in 2020, part of a long story. We won't go there. So I had to go to the hospital. They said, "Who's your doctor?" I said, "I don't have one." They said, "Well, what's your pharmacy?" "I don't have one." They didn't know what to do with me. They didn't know how to fill out the forms. How can you not have a I haven't had a primary care doctor in 25 years. Why would I need a primary care? I don't take Western meds. Why would I need a primary care doctor? They're either going to give you surgery or meds that make you sick. They only treat symptoms. I treat underlying cause. That's what Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, those kind of natural holistic health medicines are about, the underlying cause and diet. And but like Christine was articulating quite well, you do need to do that inner work. And so it's a combination. You have to look at your diet and lifestyle, and you have to look at yourself as a spiritual being. And having a purpose is important. You may not know it, but it's in your astrology because we pick our birth date. We pick the date and the time. That's why babies are not born exactly 9 months or whenever. Some are born early, some are born later, because we pick it. And we pick the energy of our name. That's why your name is so important. So the
Hmm.
energy of your name, you send that to whoever your parents are that are going to name you. They may be biological, non-biological, maybe one, maybe two, whatever. But you send that energy to your future parents to give you a name with that energy. It's
Mm,
going to vary by culture, obviously. Um, and so you chose all of that to learn certain lessons. Like Christine was saying, you had certain lessons, and you either learn them the easy way or you get a kick in the butt to learn them the hard way. And I've
pretty
learned
much.
that I've had a lot of really hard lessons, and I just said, I want my lessons to be easier from now on. And they have been for the most, except for 2020. But that's
Oh,
when I
better
had
put in
a
that request.
yeah, yeah. You know, ask and thou shalt receive.
Right?
I
Never thought of
asked.
that. Hey, can you make life easier?
I'm tired of this. I'm tired of learning this the hard way because I've had some real challenges and I just didn't want to go
Actually,
through it
things have
anymore.
gotten a lot easier over the years, but
Yeah, they do because we learn not to make the same mistakes twice. You know, what do they call that insanity when you keep doing the same
right.
thing over and over?
Well, and if there's any benefit to getting older, you start learning how to handle things also. Like, when things come up, I handle them a lot faster than I used to. I mean, gosh, something would happen and I could twist and turn for weeks and suffering over it. And now it's like an afternoon meditation, sorting out what I have to pay attention to, what needs to change, whatever. Uh, a lot easier.
One of the things
And
I still like is oracle cards. These are by Carl Gray, and I just drew this card for my summit because Christine and I recorded her summit talk. And I got Cloak of Wisdom with Kuthumi. He's an Indian
nice.
guy. And it said, you already know the answer you seek. Trust what you know. And so I read about who he was, and basically it talked about knowledge versus wisdom. And when you're
Nice.
young, you may slowly get knowledge, but it's not wisdom until you learn some lessons. And
Hmm.
so that's where Christine and I come in. You're getting the wisdom of our experiences.
We'll tell you about all our mistakes so you don't have to make them.
There you go. So, do you have any closing words, Christine?
Well, just that, if you don't wait to get sick to do your spiritual homework. Like, I mean, really, even if you think maybe you've got this and you've healed it and it's done, know that there's always another subtle layer. And I'm not saying constantly be in a state of processing and healing that never ends. Um, but what I'm saying is sometimes pick up those old issues now and then, once in a while. You don't have to wait for the spiral to come around and something to manifest in your life to bring your attention to it again. Just pick up those old issues sometimes once in a while and take another look and see if there's anything else you can shift about it before it has to become a Mack truck in your life. Because uh, even a master is truly still a student for the rest of a life, no matter how masterful they get, no matter how enlightened they get. If you always stay a student of life, that's the correct approach for maintaining your health, for one thing, but also for being able to navigate this world in a more peaceful way and in a happier way and bring the heaven frequencies in more easily. Because if you kind of preemptively strike at any kind of dysfunctions or beliefs or programming that might still be in there, if you do a preemptive strike, now and then, just pick it up once in a while. You don't have to be constantly at it. I'm just saying, especially if you can't find anything else to shift about it, but to check just in case. Um, because sometimes you might be surprised. I found that when I go back to old issues, I'm actually surprised. Oh, there's another aspect to the programming I picked up from that I didn't think of before. If you meditate and ask for the for the information to drop in, it does. So that's one thing I would like to close with is keep doing your spiritual homework so you don't have to get a Mack truck wake up call later to do your spiritual homework.
Thank you, Christine.
And
That's really, huh?
yeah, that's
Go
it.
ahead. I thought you were through. That was
Well,
it?
I was
Okay.
going to say also that, and I'm really grateful for my life. That was another thing I was going to add is that be grateful for your life now before you almost lose it and then suddenly realize how precious it is. Really develop gratitude for your life and for being human. I mean, it's truly an opportunity. I mean, this is not a common experience in the universe. So uh, it's a privilege to be here.
Is
That's
that
it.
it? I don't want to interrupt you again. Okay, well, thank you so much for being our guest today. And we thank all of you for joining us. And if you would be kind enough to like and subscribe down below, it really helps the channel. I do not do full podcasts anymore. This one will be a full podcast because Christine was my guest, but I'm now only doing shorts, and the full podcast is only for people that subscribe to Dancing Bear Enlightenment Academy. So they'll all be in my DB Enlightenment Academy app versus on YouTube. That way we don't have to watch what we say. So thank you so much for joining us, and remember to be the light you want to see in the world.